I've seen the scans. The shape of this is clear, and I wish it weren't. We can't ignore it any longer.
It has to be the simplest solution.
I agree. Go on.
Ugh, fine, but I don't like it. Communications, this is White. Reversing previous command. Undo access grant. Authorization code ECHO.
Crew, I accept this duty with full accountability. We proceed with integrity. I saw him vent in electrical.
I've started keeping notes. After everything. After the tasks, the duplicates, the voice, the engine room. I write things down. Dates, events, what we saw, what we said. This round, before we even started, I opened my comm tab to add an entry. Someone had already written in it. 6 words. I'm not going to tell you what they were yet. What I will tell you is that those 6 words were about something only I knew. Something I had never said out loud to anyone on this ship. Green found the first external sign. He came out of the weapons room holding his comm tab at arm's length, like it had done something personally offensive. On the wall beside the weapons room door, in a thin dark line like a stylus mark, were 4 words written directly on the ship's hull. The words were, "You missed one shot." His reaction was to photograph it, stare at the photo, stare at the wall, stare at the photo again, and walk directly to the cafeteria without doing any of his tasks. He just held the comm tab up so we could all see. We looked at the words. We looked at Green. Green looked at the wall in his photo like he was having a private conversation with it. "What shot?" Yellow asked. Green said nothing, which meant something. Blue found the second one before we'd finished processing the first. She called us to medbay quietly, not an emergency meeting tone, the other kind. And when we got there, it was on the scan platform's edge. 7 words in the same thin, dark line. She read them without expression. The way Blue reads things that are affecting her when she doesn't want anyone to know. The words were, "The scan was clean, and you knew it." Nobody said anything for a long time after that. The medbay was quiet, clinical. The kind of room that is bad for silence because it has nothing soft in it to absorb the feeling. Cyan was the one who finally spoke. He said, "It is writing to specific people." Green's message was about Green. Blue's message was about Blue. There may be 7 messages. He paused. The sombrero was very still. "I do not think I want to find mine." White found his before we'd finished discussing it. He came back from communications without the microphone raised, first sign, always, and said, "It says, you gave them a voice and then used it to bury them." He looked at the microphone in his hand like he was seeing it differently. "I think it means I narrated the vote. I called the round. I announced the count." He didn't say anything else for a while. Yellow's was on the navigation star chart panel, along the instrument's rim. It said, "You laughed during the vote." His propeller beanie stopped completely. I wasn't laughing at, it was nervous. I was nervous. I laugh when I'm nervous. Nobody accused him. Nobody said anything. The writing didn't care about context. It only knew what it had seen. Cyan went to admin alone. He said he wanted to find his privately, which is very Cyan. He maintains dignity by controlling the audience for his undignified moments. He came back and told us what it said without showing the photo. It said, "You counted the votes. You said the number out loud." Says, I said it like it was just a number, Cyan said, and straightened his sombrero with both suited sides. Black's was the hardest to find. He checked every surface in his task rooms, every panel, every wall. Nothing. He expanded the search. Still nothing. He came to the cafeteria and reported this with no visible emotion, which with Black is not the same as no emotion. He found it 20 minutes in. It was on the underside of his own comm tab. He read it, stood in the corridor for a long time, put the comm tab away face down, walked to the cafeteria, and sat in the corner, and when we asked, he said, "It's mine." Just that. And we understood, because each of us had stood alone with our own words and knew exactly what he meant. My turn. The 6 words had been on my comm tab since the start of the round. I'm going to tell you now. The 6 words were, you wrote it down so you'd remember. Not, you are guilty. Not, you voted wrong. Just, you wrote it down. You were paying attention even then, even when the attention didn't save anyone. The ghost had read my notes. It knew I was trying, and it was telling me it knew. That's either comfort or accusation, and I cannot tell you which because I think it might be both. We gathered in the cafeteria, not called, drawn together. White said, it knew us, all of us, individually. It had been watching long enough to know what each of us did. Blue said carefully, the messages weren't threats, they were accurate, just accurate. Green said, mine hurt. Blue said, yes, because it was true. Green looked at the floor. You missed one shot, he said quietly. I had a clear line before the vote was called. I hesitated, and then the meeting was called and I put the blaster away. Silence. It wasn't the impostor I hesitated on, he said. Blue said we needed to go back to each surface. The writing was communication, not decoration. And if we'd learned anything in 5 rounds, it was that these ghosts weren't here to haunt us. They were here because we hadn't finished something. What didn't we finish? White asked. We never said I was wrong, Blue said. Not about the specific round, not about the specific vote. We said sorry, we held silence, we finished tasks, but we never just said the words. Green looked toward the weapons room. His blaster hand was very still. We went to each surface together. Nobody had to stand alone in front of their own message. Weapons room first. Green stood at the hull wall and said, I was wrong. I had a clear line and I hesitated and I voted and I was wrong. The words faded quietly, like chalk in light rain. Just gone. Med bay. Blue stood at the scan platform and said, I was wrong. I processed the data and reached the wrong conclusion and gave it the weight of certainty, and I was wrong. Then quietly, not to any of us. The scan was clean. I did know. She straightened her witch hat, said nothing else. Communications. White raised the microphone, not to perform just because it's how he speaks truly, and said, I was wrong. I used my voice to count a vote that was wrong, and I used it like it was just a number, and it wasn't just a number, and I was wrong. The words faded. He looked at the amber pixel. Hey, he said softly. We're getting there. Navigation. Yellow's beanie was completely still when he said, I was wrong. I voted wrong and I laughed, and I know it didn't mean what it looked like, but you didn't know that, and I should have been braver. His beanie started spinning slowly again after. It felt like acceptance. Admin. Cyan removed his sombrero, held it in front of him, said, I was wrong. I counted the votes. I said the number in 2 languages because that is what I do when I count seriously, which means I believed the count was right, which means I am more responsible than I have allowed myself to feel. Says. I said it like it was just a number. It was not just a number. I was wrong. He put the sombrero back on. The text faded. He stood very straight. Black went alone, asked us to wait in the corridor. We stood there and heard his voice, quiet, direct, the words shaped but not quite audible. He positioned himself so we couldn't make them out. I think that was deliberate. He came out with his worm antenna, moving for the first time in 3 rounds. He said, done. And that was all he needed to say. My turn. I stood at the cafeteria table with my comm tab open and said, I was wrong. I voted wrong, and I have been writing it down ever since because I do remember, and the remembering doesn't fix it, but I didn't know what else to do. I still don't, but I'm here, and I'm still writing it down, and I promise I will not stop. The 6 words on the screen faded. My own notes stayed. Just mine now. Clean and mine. Blue found the last thing near the end of the round, on the cafeteria table in the corner where Black had been sitting. 3 words in the same thin, dark line. Not addressed to anyone, just there. The 3 words were, thank you, witnesses. That's what it called us. Not guilty parties. Not the crew that wronged it. Witnesses. I've been turning that word over since. We saw what happened. We know what happened. And over 5 rounds, we've been doing the one thing witnesses are supposed to do. We've been showing up, saying what we saw, staying in the room. The taskbar hit 100. 5 rounds, 5 ghosts. 5 times we've won in a way that doesn't feel like winning and also doesn't feel like losing anymore. But here's what I can't let go of. Witnesses. We're witnesses. And somewhere on this ship, alive, not a ghost, not an echo, not a frozen moment, there is someone who has been watching us witness. Someone who has learned that we are moved by guilt. Someone who knows that if they create the right kind of grief, we might hesitate at exactly the wrong moment. The ghost knew us. The impostor has been in the same rooms. Think about that. And tell me, what would your message say?